Joe Sixpack here to talk about money. Transferred all the videos over here to YouTube because I can store them indefinitely, as opposed to the old Justin TV where they'd only stay there for a week. The plus being that the videos can be longer at Justin TV, but here at YouTube I got 15 minutes, so we need to make this fast. And we'll cut back on the music and focus on the subject. Because I came over here to YouTube, I think I kind of got to start over from the beginning and explain about the Federal Reserve and what it's all about. And not just the Federal Reserve. It also has to do with the World Bank, the IMF, the Bank of England, the Bank of Japan, the Bank of Singapore, and all those other banks of all the other countries that are in the World Bank system. I'm going to go over a brief description of what has happened, and maybe I'll go into more detail a little bit later, but it has to do with fractional reserve banking and Keynesian economics. Fractional reserve banking says that the banks can take 10% of what they have and loan out 9 times that amount. That wasn't right. That just didn't come out right. Let's say the banks have $10 million, just for the sake of argument. They can loan out up to 9 times that value. And because of fractional reserve banking, they can take those loans and turn them into assets because they collect interest and loan out against that. So what that means is that they've taken that 10 million and then they loan out 9 times that amount, which would be 90 million, and that would become an asset. So that goes into their reserve and is included in that reserve, and then they can loan out on that 90 million again, 9 times that amount. And they do it again and again and again, creating this money out of thin air. And that's what the problem with the world is today. Because they create money and then they charge interest, which is more money that they create, to loan it to other banks and you, they create this deficit where they're actually loaning out more money than there actually is in existence. But they get away with it by calling it credit and not money. But it's the same. Money is credit, credit is money. And because they loan it out to smaller banks, then they loan it out to smaller banks, and then they distribute it out through credit card services or whatever to get it to the consumers. It creates this deficit where there's actually more money loaned out than there is in existence. And that's what creates these financial crises. When these financial crisis reaches the head, the musical chair stops and somebody has to default. Simply because there's more credit than money. And that's what creates these boom and bust cycles. So what is money? Money is an exchange of products or services, and it's a medium of exchange, for a better term. So it's worth what the person using it thinks it's worth to another person. My question is, why do we need to back it by gold or, in the case of the world banking system, bonds, which are basically IOUs? I'll get into a little more deeper detail about that. And this is going to be a challenge because I've made all these videos in the past explaining this on Justin TV, but they get deleted after a week, so I may have to start completely over again. What has happened is that we created this deficit because we create this money out of thin air through fractional reserve banking and Keynesian economics. And nobody questions it. Not one person questions it. There's a few out there that may, but they're considered freaks or fools or whatever. But the truth of the matter is that it's unquestioned for the most part. And it's been unquestioned since 1912, 1911, when the Federal Reserve was created, here in the United States anyway. So what is money? In Keynesian economics, in the Federal Reserve, money is debt, and debt is money. Because somebody always owes somebody until you get to the top. Because they're just creating the money. And this is not the government that's doing it. These are private enterprises that are doing it. So they're raking in all this cash with this money that they create because they can loan out through fractional reserve banking, which says they can loan out 9 times the amount of money that they have in reserve. And then they could take those loans that they loan out, call that reserve money, and loan out against it again. And they can do this up to 9 times. Theoretically, they can do it up to infinity. But then they'd be loaning out pennies and half pennies, and that's just silly. But they loan out up to 9 times, creating money. But they call it credit. It's not real money. It's credit. Because of this, and then they front load it with interest to create more money. To what they call protect themselves from the risk to loan out the money that they created. They didn't earn it. They didn't work for it. They just created it. And these are up at the upper echelons of the banks, the Federal Reserve, the World Bank, the IMF, Bank of Japan, Bank of England, Bank of Singapore, Bank of Vietnam, the ECB, that's the European Union Bank, basically. They just create this money. So they create all these deficits because they're creating more money than is actually in existence. And that's why they have to print more money to cover their butts. And this is just an endless spiral. I think I may have to go into more detail on this simply because these videos are only 15 minutes long. It's the longest I can make these videos. And I'm already at 11. And there's just simply not enough time to explain everything what's going on. Plus, I'm kind of starting over. So maybe I should just completely start over. Start from the beginning. And explain what money is in today's system. And help you, the listener, realize that the money is not created out of debt, but a government can actually create its own money debt-free. And there's plenty of examples of that in history that allow that to happen. But the reason why it's not happening is because the banks don't want that to happen, because they corral the money through the use of fractional reserve banking and Keynesian economics. And what we're witnessing today is the transfer of all the money from the working people to the super elite. And it's done through Keynesian economics and fractional reserve banking. Debt-free money, that can't happen. And there are plenty of examples in history where thousands of years went by where nobody could corral the money and take it over because the money was debt-free. But the banks, the goldsmiths, way back when, wanted to corral the money because they wanted to hoard it and control it. And that's what's happening today. Every war you see on TV, every riot you see is caused by fractional reserve banking and Keynesian economics. And they like it that way. They don't care about the human spirit, the individual, and the working guy, the Joe Sixpacks of America and the Joe Sixpacks of the world. They don't care about us. They care about corralling as much money as they can. And I'm going to have to go in deeper detail in another video. And we'll do that, set that up tomorrow. As there just simply isn't enough time for 15 minutes to explain everything. But that's what I hope to do. I know this video wasn't very funny or entertaining because I want to put that in. Last video, if you're on Justin TV, I was in my boxers while I was in this nice suit. That was pretty funny. Kind of Anthony Weiner joke. But I gotta go.